the Sabbath, 26th day of the 11th month, 47th year of the 120th Jubilee. Dear friends, today is the 4th Sabbath, the 11th month of the Temple calendar. Last week we studied the final paper of the Intro to the Quran series, which was the chronology of the Quran Part 2, Becca and the Four Rightly Guided Caliphs, number Q001D. In that Sabbath message we gave advance warning of the global warming series and the paper The Millennial Warm Period and Satan's Fraud, number 218D. We gave advance notice that we would be dealing with the global warming scams involving the man-made global warming frauds that have been advanced over the last 30 years at the end of this age. President Trump gave advance warning to Mark Zuckerberg regarding the fake fact-checkers set up in Facebook, now Meta. Mr. Zuckerberg gave assurance, privately and publicly, to President Trump that he would stop the fake fact-checkers and stop them from interfering with a post on Facebook, and that he would have them replaced by a social commentary system. It turns out that that was not true, and when we placed notifications on the CCG Facebook sites, the fake fact-checkers started to remove the post in spite of the fact that we were merely giving advance notice of the subject of the messages. We'll now give full details of the conduct of the fake fact-checkers on Facebook, both to Mark Zuckerberg and to the Trump administration and to the administration in AU and New Zealand and UK. So also we will inform Canada's administration and others in EU. They appear to be advancing the globalist propaganda at every opportunity until we can clean the system out completely. They simply will not make any attempt to correct their fraudulent positions. Facebook Meta has to get rid of them immediately, as they promised Trump they would. So also the media refuses to correctly cover the man-made global warming fraud, and they will not act until they are charged with the criminal offence that it is and imprisoned. The videos at the Rumble links regarding both the global warming series and that Rumble link, and also the aspects of the receding seas under the modern ice age for Ephesus, Miletus and other port areas are covered in the Seven Churches series, in the video at the Rumble on Introduction in Ephesus, etc. So also the aspects of the changing sea levels are discussed in the video on Troy. To reiterate the cycle, the sequence occurs over the basic solar cycle, which is 11.1 years, and all scientists are agreed that that is the basic cycle. What they also know is that the warm periods begin at the change from one ice age cycle that ends after 50 solar cycles. That commences the next warm period, which lasts for a further 50 cycles, and then a new mini ice age occurs that lasts for another 50 solar cycles. Then another warm period begins. To suggest that this is man-made is a scandalous fraud put out by unprincipled scoundrels or their uneducated dupes. The effects on Australia will be massive, and the massive sea coasts, over 12,000 kilometres around Australia, will be inundated. Instead of taking action to relocate the AU populace inland along with the Pacific Island nations and control all development on the coasts, the politicians are allowing our people to be totally unprepared and deceived into thinking it can be prevented by cutting out fossil fuels. By 2028, the Australian populace will be enraged to the extent they will seek to execute every globalist Marxist in the socialist left of the ALP, the Greens and the Teals, and the left of the Liberal Party, and every other quasi-political movement that advances the fraud of man-made global warming. Also, the universities will end up being defunded along with the media from the ABC and everywhere else that is party to this fraud. Instead of lying to our people for 200 years, we could have regulated the settlement in AU and planned the erection of inland cities and areas of development, and planned the damming of all water and sending it inland on a permanent basis. Within 4 years, the rising levels of the millennial warm period will see the inundation of most coastal cities, with sea level rises of some 10 metres or so overall. It may even be more. We do not know with any surety. What is certain is that we will have to build mass housing inland and fight off the globalist forces who will attempt to destroy us everywhere. Unless the politicians act to redirect our communal activities and construction, it will cause a civil war. We will now look at the various aspects that need planning and development. We know that global warming is inevitable because it is solar-induced and cyclical, as explained in the P218 series. It is not man-made. However, we should be thinking about what can be done to assist mankind to withstand the effects. 1. Water. As it gets hotter, water will evaporate more quickly. Water storage systems need to be increased and reservoirs covered to minimise evaporation. Water purification plants will need to be optimised. Every home should be subsidised into water tanks if they have not already got one. Bores installed where appropriate. The LA fires should have taught the world something, although the Australian experience has not done so. The clearing of fuel in the forest masses should be regulated as it was in the Aboriginal systems before 1778. 2. Electricity, air conditioning, fridges, freezers, etc. need to be kept operational, and the resources to keep them running must be available. Fossil fuel as a source of baseload power must be planned and maintained. Much of AU baseload power will be underwater by 2028, and so there must be a continual operation planned until new ones are built higher up to take over the changing load in baseload power. So also the grids must be upgraded. Coal and gas must be available within new sites, opened where necessary, and near the coal and gas sources. We have the natural resources, so let's use them and get as much going as possible. Any emissions will not add to the problem. Gas and electricity must be affordable. Our industry must be made to benefit with government subsidies where required. 3. Population. As the ice caps melt, sea levels will rise, as they have done over the previous millennia. Governments need to prepare for population movement. Islanders will need to be brought in and housed. Our coastal population will need to be moved inland. The housing and infrastructure need to be planned immediately. Political parties that suppress development and relocation should be banned, and their advocates prevented from holding public office. Fortunately, the world is now starting to see through these Marxist globalists and the damage they have done to the world. 4. Food. Water for crops may be limited. Our agricultural food supplies will become more and more expensive, and the globalist political systems is seeking to control them for population control. Food storage by individuals and governments has to be undertaken as a matter of priority. They should maximise canned, dried and frozen foods as appropriate. 5. The media. It's time the media reported the facts, did the required research and stopped pandering to the Marxist globalists and governments, oligarchs and other financial controllers. The ABC and the BBC are funded by the taxpayer. They should be honest in their reporting and not globalist mouthpieces, which they are now. Most of, or perhaps all, media outlets are biased and attempt to guide the audience's opinions. This is corrupt and is a misuse of its responsibilities. Scientists and all universities should get busy on solutions to the issues that will arise and have been known to exist for millennia. They have to stop pandering to the governments of the day for their grants and patronage. All solutions should be on the table for consideration. Net zero emissions as a solution is not one of them. and has now been shown to be completely unworkable. The basic scientific law is that CO2 emissions do not cause global warming, and that fraud should be exposed and those advancing it should be imprisoned as fraudsters. Electorates advancing it should be punished and their grid access rationed and their communities relocated to the inland. No future construction can be allowed at less than 60 metres above sea level to allow for the melting of all caps until the effects of the warming of the fourth vial in Revelation chapter 16 is fully known. It is simply not acceptable to do nothing and allow the parasites of the wealthy of the world systems to limit and control our development out of their own self-interest. For that reason, we have to control and disperse these reserve bank systems, and the Federal Reserve has to be taken over by the Congress and the Australian Reserve by the federal government, so also the City of London Corporation and its system dispersed. We have to prepare for the end of this age and the arrival of the Messiah and a new system of government under biblical law. Perhaps we can achieve this as a task symbolised by today's alignment of the planets. Wade Cox, Coordinator General.